So welcome again to this EDENAP webinar. My name is Vlad Mihaescu. I am in this meeting from very cold Timișoara, very cold. It means -5 degrees. For us, it's cold. I know that for colleagues from Lithuania, maybe this is usual in this time of the year. I am vice president, one of EDEN's vice presidents. I'm responsible for membership and communication. And I'm also an associate professor at the Polytechnic University of Timișoara. I'm very happy to moderate this webinar, this EDENAP webinar, and allow me first just to give you a short information about NAP, about what NAP is. It's the network of academics and professionals. It's an important pillar of EDEN, of our association, and it's basically about the community. It's the network of individuals who are part of EDEN, so not organizations, but individuals. And it has a triple purpose, let's say, networking, professional collaboration, and knowledge sharing. We organize different types of events, but the most known and the most usual type of these events are the EDEN NAP webinars, which occur more or less monthly, with very good topics. And I encourage you also to look on the EDEN website in the next period to see what other NAP webinars are in place. But today we talk about microcredentials, and we talk about microcredentials not only from a theoretical point of view, but we want to see some practicalities and to have to showcase some good practice examples from several projects, institutions, and organizations and associations. I see that meanwhile some people started to be more courageous and brave and wrote in the chat. So welcome to colleagues from Lithuania. I see -9 for Kaunas is not that cold. I understand. Okay. I'm sure that people in, let's say, the Mediterranean area would strongly disagree with this statement. I am very happy to have a mixed panel, a very valuable and experienced panel, but a mix in terms of the countries where people are coming from, and also the institutions and activities they are involved with. And it gives me a great pleasure to introduce the first presentation of today, reminding you that you have both the chat and the Q&A possibilities if you want to address questions to our speakers, to our panelists, or to leave remarks, or if you have maybe some links to your best practices on this topic. Feel free to use the chat, and as I said, questions either in the chat or in the Q&A as you prefer. We will address these questions either after each presentation or at the end of the webinar, depending how we manage the time constraints. So we will have 3 presentations today, and the first one, as I said, it gives me great pleasure to introduce 2 very good speakers to you. So we have Estela Daukšienė, who is an associate professor in the Educational Academy and the deputy director at the Institute for Study Innovations at Vytautas Magnus University from Lithuania. And also she is one of my colleagues from EDEN's management board, and she has been involved with EDEN for several years, and also she is involved for several years also in microcredential projects and activities. So she will have a great input on this topic. And she will share a presentation together with Colin, who is a consultant for different European projects and initiatives related to quality assurance, recognition, and digitalization. He is quite involved in the European Digital Education Hub, and also he is representing Knowledge Innovation Center, which you know as KIC, maybe from Malta, a very important organization, especially in relation to microcredentials. So without further ado, Estela, Colin, the floor is yours, and we are looking forward to hearing your presentation.
Yes, so I hope you can see my screen, and thank you for the floor, and I'm glad to start the presentation with the project presentation with this event. For a couple of years we have been working already in this project, and we are coming to an end, so we have a lot of results that we can share. So I will briefly present the project itself, its background idea, and in general the main results, and Colin will share with you more technical approach, what we have to suggest for other institutions, and maybe to invite in further collaboration or your contributions to the project. So first of all, the project we are representing is QualityLink, which focuses on exchanging quality data of courses leading to microcredentials across Europe. And me and Colin are presenters, as Vlad already presented us, but in the project we also have other people contributing. So the project coordinator is DHBW, and Johan is the main person responsible. We also have Elena as a contributor from Eden. We have Tiago, who is contributing from EUF, and Aranza and contributing from Mondragon. Of course, here you see only the key people to contact if you know them, but all these people have their teams behind. So briefly, what is the project about and what we focus here? Microcredentials is not a new topic, and a lot of institutions have been creating the courses that lead to microcredentials. And the project is focusing on creating some, unique classifications, but also we have been discussing for 2 years what are the quality data that describes the microcredential, and of course how we can share these data in a proper way from technical point of view, so that it requires less this work from the person to enter the data for each course separately each time in each platform and so on. So as you know, probably there are a lot of platforms which share microcredentials. I think different alliances of universities, they have their own microcredential platforms where they share courses. Other institutions create some open platforms that they have the courses for the society members. So there are different ways for institution, either university, either other type of institution, sharing the courses. In this project, we focused mainly on contributions from higher education institutions, but also the idea comes that for a student to find a course which suits his or her needs and employer's needs, and later on the course is recognizable and shareable in the same place and does not disappear, is also a need, from the student's perspective, so that there is some kind of place where you can find this kind of information, where you can choose the courses and maybe to find the information where to apply, or even to use the same platform to apply to this course. And of course, later on to provide the link for someone who is recognizing this course. So there is a need for some kind of platform or data sharing storage where it would be easy for institution to share the data, and it would be easy for a person or student, a learner, every one from us are the learners nowadays, to find what we need and to look at the learning. So in this project, we aim at creating this seamless kind of environment where the institutions could share these kind of data of the courses and the students or learners could find. So we have been discussing what are these quality domains and quality criteria for these kind of courses, okay, what institutions can share, what students are looking, in which details are more useful. We have had some rounds of the external experts joining and sharing or from working from different technological or networks and sharing these experiences. So Colin will talk about more these how we approach it technically. I could say, as I come from educational point of view, I could say that we have been discussing and we have created a list of quality criteria which describe micro-credentials, which we can recommend for an institution. If you are sharing information about the course, please check if you share this data with the students, because this is what the students are looking for, as we had some surveys by students, by different stakeholders. We had some webinars where the focus groups and focus groups where these quality domains and quality indicators were discussed and approved. So the outputs you can find and share it in our project website, and you can browse them. And if you are interested in these quality indicators and their domains, you can definitely find there. And the next thing, this prototype of the platform, where I will give the floor to Colin to present, and for Colin to speak about what has been created and how can institutions collaborate. Okay, the floor is yours, Colin.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Estela, and thank you also, Vlad, for the kind introduction earlier and the opportunity to present a bit about QualityLink in this webinar today. Let me just share the screen, slides from my side. So as taking up from where Estela stopped, I'm going to give you a bit of an overview how we're approaching this from a technical perspective, and then show you what we already have and also how institutions can participate in that. As Estela said, we've focused on modeling, let's say, the ideal or the possibly relevant quality indicators for micro-credentials. So of course, the next question is, where do we get this data from, and how could we collect such data at and aggregate such data at the Europe-wide level? The vision that we are designing this technical architecture for is that we would be able to integrate data from different sources. On the one hand, we would have higher education institutions themselves who make available data on their courses and micro-credentials, also some quality indicators on them. We would also have trusted official data sources, such as the DECA database, where we would have information on accreditation or other quality relevant indicators on micro-credentials from all institutions. And of course, we would have also other external data sources, for example, a rating provider or a ranking provider that could bring in some relevant quality data on different institutions and their performance. The idea is that with our architecture, we'll be able to bridge data from and connect data from different sources, different institutions, different other sources, and have all that collated into one aggregated open data set. When we started working on this, we looked quite in detail at the existing standards that there are for describing and exchanging data on courses and micro-credentials. On the one hand, there are a lot of standards out there already. There's the European Learning Model, for example, that some of you might know from the work on digital credentials. There are various API standards for exchanging educational data. But all these standards have some gaps somewhere that would prevent, let's say, a fully functioning end-to-end system where data sources from different universities could be discovered and data could be aggregated. So what we did is we tried to build, of course, on these existing standards as much as possible, and basically fill in the gaps, which are visualized in red color here on this slide. So to kind of fill in the gaps where the different standards are missing some aspects to really have data aggregation work from end to end. We try to keep this all as flexible as possible, so allow the use of different data standards, and by doing that, we want to make sure that the bar to adopting this, especially as a higher education institution, remains as low as possible, so that we don't suggest something that would be an unnecessary extra burden for institutions. I'm not going too much into detail about this. What we have proposed and are now piloting is a data exchange architecture that could use different data models. It could process data that is available in the European Learning Model, ELM, but it could also handle data that is exposed, for example, in using the Open Education API, OAPI, or the OneAttack Global Edu API standards. And of course, possible other standards in the future, but these are the kind of standards we have focused on to start with. We've also decided, and we've worked quite intensively with the Standards Consultation Board with experts who have been working a lot with all those different standards and others. We concluded that our main reference standard, however, for everything is the European Learning Model, because that is the official EU standard that's also used in the European Digital Credentials infrastructure, and that is also the most all-encompassing standard. So everything from any other standard is relatively easy to move data to and convert data into the ELM format, because it is so broad and allows to represent almost everything. Now, how can this be practically used by institutions, or how could this be implemented? How could institutions participate in a Europe-wide data aggregation? The first step, of course, would be to expose your course data in one of the interoperable formats. As I said before, we're supporting now 4 standards at the moment. So you could make information on your courses available in the European Learning Model format. You could implement endpoints using the OAPI standard, using the Edu API standard, or using the Okapi standard. Okapi is a new open course catalog API standard that is being adopted gradually also within the Erasmus Without Paper network. So, for example, to expose your course data for the Erasmus Without Paper network, for the online learning agreement, for example, you would also need to make it available in Okapi potentially. So the same standard could fulfill different purposes. Then we have been piloting a QualityLink course data aggregator that is now available for testing by all higher educational institutions in Europe. I will show that in a little moment. And of course, this is the easiest way where to make your data, to which to make your data available, and to which to aggregate your data at maybe at the European level, but maybe also for different institutions within the European University Alliance or similar. There are in principle other options. Everything that we are developing in QualityLink is open source, so you could always take the aggregator software that we have developed and run it yourself for your European University Alliance or similar. Or of course, you could also use the standards that we develop, but develop your complete custom own aggregator. This is not something that we would recommend at the moment, because the whole goal of this project, of course, is on the one hand to propose technical infrastructure and standards, but also to actually work towards one common Europe-wide aggregated data set for course data, and not have this data dispersed anymore between different institutions and different alliances. And last but not least, if you are, for example, a European University Alliance, and you want to show data in a joint public course catalog, Again, there are different options to do it. You could use the QualityLink pilot platform itself. You could just use the same interface that we will be launching later this spring, and just have a filtered view that shows only courses from your institution or from your alliance. And again, you could run this same software yourself, or you could, of course, also develop a complete custom course catalog front end that fits your website, for example, but use the data from the aggregated common data set as a basis. What's important to say before quickly showing you where to find more details and how this looks in practice for now is that we really have an open data philosophy behind this project. So on the one hand, all the data that will be aggregated through the QualityLink pilot aggregator will be accessible through a public web portal, of course. So you can do basic searching, filtering, and so on. But we also make the whole data set available on the one hand through an API, through a technical interface that allows you to integrate this into your own applications. For example, if you want to make your own custom course catalog front end or need to integrate course data for some other reasons. So you can use that API to access the full data set. Or of course, it will also be accessible for freely for download in full. So for example, if researchers or analysts need this data. So the idea is that all the course data is of course genuinely public data and should be available to everyone under under a suitable Creative Commons license, actually. It would be limited not to make it open for commercial use, but for any other use, everyone could use the data, provided they give credit to the original source, of course. Now, where do we stand in practice with all this? As I said, the data aggregator is running, and this has been recently launched in a beta or pilot version for testing. I will show that to you in a second. And here on the slides that will be made available as well, you would also find information on where to find full documentation, how this can be used, how you can make your course data known to the aggregator. There's two versions of this. One is more for policymakers or decision makers, and then there's a more technically focused documentation for IT managers or IT implementers. Now, let me quickly change the window that I'm sharing. If that's it. I just thought I had managed to crash my computer. Luckily, I didn't. That would be a pity. So, as I said, you have a technical guide that gives you all the specifications, all the information, all the links to the detailed technical specifications that explain how you can make your data your data sources known to the aggregator. It's relatively simple, and you have the step-by-step information here. You also have an information what kind of exact details are already supported by the pilot aggregator and dashboard. Then it's in the end to see how it's working for an institution. You have a very simple dashboard where you can actually double check if your institution's data was discovered. I'm just opening now someone who does not have data here. Let's see if we go to this Aachen University of Applied Sciences. There's no data here because they haven't published any course data in one of the interoperable formats yet. But if you go to another test case, I'm just picking institution now where some test data is published. For example, you have this Linköping University that has published some data through the system for testing. You see here, you see the standard search order, how data sources are discovered in line with the proposed standards. You see that something was found here for this university, and then on the end of the page, you have a way to diagnose which data sources have been discovered for this institution and when they have last been refreshed, etc. Now the and then eventually you would find all those data sources from different providers in one single catalog. This is nothing I want to show you for more than a second because it's not very full yet. So you have on the one hand the dashboard for institutions where you see how your data is being processed, and then you have a public-facing catalog where all aggregated cross data can be found. As I said, yeah, thanks, Estela. You also shared the link already. The link to the institutional dashboard and specs is there, and the public-facing catalog will then be launched later this spring once there's a significant amount of test data available. With that, I would finish my part and hand it back to Vlad. Thank you.
Before we go to Vlad, just to finish that, we will be presenting more of this in masterclass, which takes place this year in Amsterdam at the end of February, and we will have a full webinar more explaining and maybe letting you play with the dashboard in March when we will have Open Education Week. So just if you got interested or we maybe want your colleagues to have a look at that, know that it's only one of the events that we are sharing this information. Thank you.
And yes, thanks, Estela. I just dropped the link for the masterclass in the chat as well. So there's still time to sign up, and in the chat you have the link where you can find more information about this.
Thank you so much, both of you, Estela and Colin. I think this is a very interesting presentation and tool, this aggregator, especially since we have a lot of discussion about challenges with interoperability and transferability. I don't see any questions yet, but I encourage our participants to use the Q&A section and the chat to ask questions. I have just a short question before moving to myself as a speaker rather than a moderator. So I'm not really clear how you are using existing tools of EU, for example, Europass or the European Learning Model, which you mentioned. Is this aggregator more like a bridge, or is it thought to replace something which is missing in the European ecosystem?
I would say in general, it's what you said, the bridge describes it best, because it's not seeking to replace any existing standard, but it's more a bridge to connect, for example, ELM with other standards. And it's also maybe a bridge in a sense that it allows institutions to directly expose data in this interoperable format themselves. Because, for example, there is the ELM standard for digital that's used for digital credentials and also for the Europass Learning Opportunities database. But if you want your learning opportunities to show up in the Europass database, you cannot just go there as an institution, upload it directly. You need to go through your national qualifications database, and only whatever your national qualifications database then sends further into the Europass database will be there. In many countries, this works perfectly fine, but it's in many countries, there is no national qualifications database, or maybe on the way from your institution to the national database, some data is already cut out or left out. So the idea is also to have, let's say, maybe a bit more self-sovereign approach for institutions, where institutions can publish the information and control how the information goes into Europe-wide aggregation themselves, and not only through a national intermediary.
Okay, thank you. This clarifies more the exact place of this aggregator in the framework, European framework and ecosystem. Even if you didn't ask questions yet, if you have some until the end of this session, feel free to leave them in the chat or Q&A. Now I'm switching hats. I'm going to be now a speaker, and I'm going to speak about the experiences we have encountered with microcredentials in our European University Alliance, EUDRES, and also in my university, the Polytechnic University of Timișoara. So let me jump into the presentation. Okay, so as mentioned, I mentioned this EUDRES Alliance. This is one of the initial European University Alliances, and we started working in 2019. And it is an alliance which at the moment is composed of 9 members plus 36 associated partners from several countries in Europe. The alliance is led by St. Pölten University of Applied Sciences from Austria, and my university is also a member of it. And in this alliance, we also are, let's say, exploring the challenges and uncharted waters of joint microcredentials. You can imagine if you are in the area of microcredentials, you already know that national legislation is challenging, but when you try to do inter-countries joint microcredentials, you step into different sorts of challenges and hurdles. So what we did first, we created a framework for specifically for our alliance. We analyzed existing legislation in each of the countries in terms of microcredentials, and we also put this onto the map of European frameworks and European, let's say, legislation regarding and recommendation regarding microcredentials. And we decided that for our alliance, we are going to consider a microcredential, a certification of assessed learning of 1 to 6 ECTS. And I'm not going to go into the definitions of the microcredentials because I'm sure you already know them. I'm just reminding that we talk about short-term educational modules, which are mostly skill-focused, which should be stackable so that students can be awarded a diploma when they manage to complete several of these modules. And these type of education is coming complementary to the traditional degrees. In our framework, we tried to emphasize 5 key pillars. One, and the most important, was the alignment with European frameworks. The second is a learner-centered approach. Then we talk about the rigorous quality assurance and evaluation. We try to envision portability through advanced verification technologies, and finally, a robust accreditation. These elements, we believe, would ensure that microcredentials are credible, flexible, and widely recognized. We tried to identify how we can develop these microcredentials because, of course, theory is nice, but we also need to put it in practice. So we thought that the development should begin with a needs assessment to identify key skill gaps, which could include digital skills, soft skills, or more specialized competencies, depending on each institution and each country. We really believe that collaboration should be the central point of this process, and that the partners in our alliance, in our EUDRES alliance, should work together to design the credentials, which should not only be stackable, but should also align with the national and European frameworks. Finally, we encourage the teachers who are going to or who are already developing these modules to use design thinking and to design these modules with modularity in mind, and to try to target learning experiences which are aligned already with industry demands. Each of the microcredentials should be developed with clear learning outcomes, of course, and this should be defined according to the EQF. And this, of course, would ensure that the learners would acquire the competencies recognized and valued across borders in Europe. The delivery formats we encourage to be flexible. For some, on-site might work, for others online, or for others hybrid. Of course, we tried to insist on online mostly, but we kept this flexibility to embrace the, let's say, the differences and diversity in our alliance. Assessment strategies are also a key focus, and these we encourage to include project-based evaluation, quizzes, or peer assessments, and all designed to validate the learning outcomes, maintaining, of course, an academic rigor. Talking about implementation, we believed when we defined this framework, and keep in mind we finalized this framework last year, beginning of last year. So that's when let's say the framework was finalized. And we believe that the implementation is where the framework comes to life. And one of the most exciting aspects would be to use advanced technologies like blockchain and the European blockchain services infrastructure to issue and verify credentials. Now, this is still a dream for us. We are still not there yet, because these technologies would ensure that micro-credentials are secure, tamper-proof, and portable across platforms and borders. And that's why I understood quite well the idea behind the aggregator, which our colleagues presented earlier. Open badges are another important feature of these micro-credentials, because these badges contain metadata such as the issuing institution, learning outcomes, assessment details, and so forth and so on. And these badges can be posted on platforms like LinkedIn, for example, by the students who complete the modules. By standardizing the processes across all of our alliance in our partner institutions, we would ensure that the micro-credentials are consistent and credible. And additionally, advocacy efforts with policymakers would help. We encourage the team behind this framework, and I'm happy that some of them are also present in this webinar, to contact and to keep a close relationship with national agencies, with ministries, education ministries, to try to advocate for, let's say, further development of micro-credential legislation. We defined the micro-credentials with some critical information requirements in mind, and here you have just some examples. Of course, you can imagine this as metadata elements which ensure transparency and usability for both learners and employers. And we thought that by providing this information in a clear and standardized way, both learners and employers could easily understand what the credential represents. Of course, for the learners, this means clarity about the skills they will gain and how the micro-credential would fit into their broader learning or into their career paths. And for employers, it would ensure trust in the authenticity and the relevance of the certification, making it easier for them to evaluate candidates or recognize their competency. This level of detail enhances the credibility of micro-credentials. So we had, this is not, as I said, it's just a part of the requirements which we included as mandatory. It's not a, let's say, very long, it's a one-pager, let's say, of a table where course module creators, micro-credential creators are encouraged to complete that data. Not encouraged, they have to complete that data to have it then as metadata for the digital badge and the micro-credential behind it. We also had other considerations in mind beyond the core elements which we envisioned for the framework. We thought we need to look into funding opportunities, to explore EU grants and initiatives which can support the development and implementation of such modules. We also encourage both the Alliance and also the institutions to provide workshops and resources, because faculty need to be trained for these technologies and these concepts. We encourage, of course, collaboration between partners and best practice sharing, and we try to focus on not only on lifelong learners, but also on students and staff in our EUDRES regions, in the regions of our institutions. So this framework was designed, as mentioned, was finalized around 1 year ago, and we see it as a living document, and based on the experiences and piloting of microcredentials which are developed or being developed now, until next year, we will have a, let's say, updated document with maybe some small changes in some of the parts. But we also envisioned an implementation plan because, as mentioned, theory cannot go without practice. And I'm going to briefly show you the implementation plan, and then I'm going to show you where we are at the moment. So we envisioned a launch of a call for proposals in spring of last year. And we established several criteria for evaluating the calls we received from the teachers in our alliance. And then in the spring and summer of this happened. So we had the call in spring. We evaluated and finalized in June which modules got, let's say, a thumbs up from the alliance to start developing. And then we wanted to have in spring, summer standardized tools for design and verification and to conduct workshops. This was delayed, but we held 2 workshops this autumn in October, so a little bit delay. And then in fall, basically, it was supposed to, modules were supposed to start being developed, and they are, and already we have a couple which are finalized, and I'm going to show you soon also what those modules are about. So we encourage an institution level implementation. We encourage each institution to do a needs analysis. We encourage them to have 2-3 microcredentials per institution in this academic year, which is still ongoing, to pilot and to improve based on their experience. We encourage them to make their internal procedures better, to develop guidelines if they didn't have already some in place, and to involve a lot of stakeholders, the quintuple helix, because not only teachers should be involved in development and engagement of these microcredentials, but of course quite a wider range of people. This is something which, as an alliance, we cannot control. So these were the recommendations to each institution. We are going to see how many manage to fulfill it. So we had some practical steps to launch. We had the spring. We had the framework completed. We released the call. We evaluated the proposals. We had capacity building workshops. And we are now launching pilot modules, and we are going to have also this ongoing microcredential launch until the first semester of the next academic year. We have at the moment 21 modules in development from our partners, and I tried to group them into some categories. Of course, many of them are around digital innovation and technology. We have, for example, an introduction to augmented experiences, which is developed by our colleagues from IPS, from Institute Polytechnic of Setúbal. Modules on cloud engineering from St. Pölten, digital audio, video production from my university, but also some other modules on IT project management and process architecture. Then we have quite a good number of modules on the topics of sustainability and social impact. We have modules from Belgium, from University College Limburg-Leuven, and also from Polytechnic of Setúbal on this type of modules, but also on this type of topic, but also impact in a net zero society module developed by St. Pölten University of Applied Science. And another very big category of modules developed in our alliance is on design, communication, and research methods, where we have modules on user experience and design from St. Pölten and from Timișoara, but also communication and engagement from our colleagues from Vigeme University in Latvia, or module on research for students at the master level from YAMK in Finland, for example. And also a lot of niche competencies, specialized applications, which, however, fit very well into the core activities and the vision of our EUDRES Alliance. So basically, we are now at the stage where when we are starting piloting, we are expecting to have around 10 modules, which will be finished until summer and are starting to being piloted. At the moment, they are going to be piloted only with students from our alliance, but they will afterwards be also open at some point to other people who would like to, other students, lifelong learners who would like to learn. I also want to very briefly take you through what we have been doing with microcredentials and open badges at my university, the Polytechnica University of Timișoara, where we have been working with these sort of badges, let's say, for 7-8 years now. We started to give, first we started with informal learning. We have a lot of webinars and workshops, and we give microcredits and open badges for participants, moderators, and speakers, presenters. We integrated these sort of badges with Badger, and most of these events were usually organized in partnership with IEEE and EDEN. We had several of these designs created by our colleagues. All of them are integrated in our Moodle platform, either in our official virtual campus LMS of the university, or our, let's say, MOOC platform, Unicampus, which is also offering this sort of badges. But we are not only creating micro-credentials in terms of badges, we are also creating certificates, and these certificates are having behind a lot of metadata and can be easily verified by dedicated tools on this area. But we also are offering a lot of let's say digital badges and micro-credentials for formal education. We were involved in several projects. EDEN was also associated partner in these projects. For example, the Open Virtual Mobility, where we developed several courses. Each of them offered a 3-level badge and certificate, basic, intermediate, and advanced. Similar with the DigiCulture open badges. The DigiCulture was a project, and the modules are still available for everyone to go and to look over them and to learn the information. And we created again separate open badges with certificate and metadata behind it. You can see how the metadata looks in the right-hand side. And each of these were issued to hundreds of students who finalized these modules. They had, of course, the possibility to share this type of badges and to export it and use it in their European portfolio, European passport, LinkedIn, or wherever they wanted. And the last thing which we worked on were badges on related to EUDRES. We developed together with other colleagues from the Alliance courses on a separate activity and project of the Alliance. It's called Entrenovators, and we created this open education related courses, open access, open science, open innovation, and also about licensing. And for each of these, we issue a badge, and it has again metadata, and it has a certificate of completion behind it, digitally signed, and which can be again integrated with specific tools of micro-credentials. So I would say the biggest challenge is to get people on board, even if we have in place technology and we have in place, let's say, content to develop these micro-credentials. There are still a lot of, especially teachers, and I'm going to address one of the elephants in the room. Whenever we talk about micro-credentials, we have a lot of colleagues around our university or other universities who are afraid that micro-credentials are going to, let's say, take away from the students which are doing now the other bachelor or master level programs, and this will mean that the university will suffer. I personally believe micro-credentials will complement and will help institutions gain other students and lifelong learners besides the ones they are having. So from my point of view, 3 takeaways would be that micro-credentials offer flexible and accessible routes to the skill acquisition, and this is important, especially if together with stakeholders, when you develop these micro-credentials, you identify which are those required skills for your institution and area. If we have a clear framework in mind when we design the micro-credential, then these would gain credibility and transferability. That's why we wanted to have a framework for our alliance, for example, and we also have a framework in place in our university because it helps a lot with these issues. And finally, in the end, effective implementation depends both on institutional commitment and digital credentialing. You need to be able to transfer these digital badges, but you also need the institutional commitment and support to do it. I was not a very good timekeeper. I took a little bit too long. So this was my presentation. You also benefit from this presentation after. I don't see any questions either in the Q&A or chat. So I will move to the next speaker, and if you still have questions, feel free to raise them in the chat meanwhile. So thank you for listening to my presentation, for paying attention, and I am introducing our final presenter of the day, a very dear colleague of ours, Elena Trepule, who is the EDEN Secretary General and also an associate professor at Educational Academy in Vytautas Magnus University from Lithuania. She is quite involved also in area of micro-credentials with several projects and research on this topic in the past years. So Elena, it is my pleasure to pass the microphone virtually to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Vlad, for your kind introduction. And I'm going to share a very modest presentation today, but EDEN is very happy to be a partner in European projects, and you could face the example of a QualityLink project that is creating a very important structure to implement micro-credentials and have them more and easily available to learners and universities. And of course, EUDRES experience is also very valuable. My personal experience in micro-credentials goes back to the research project that I was leading a couple of years ago, where university experimenting, creating a prototype, issuing micro-credentials at the university level. And this is what Vlad is sharing. It's not, it's easy to issue micro-credentials, but it's not so easy to make it systematic, system-wise, and to make them seamless. So this is where university structures have to be aligned, and it's very important. It's something that has to be done behind the scenes. However, my job is to present EDEN's experimentation with micro-credentials using Europass infrastructure. Eden has been using to issue open badges to the participants of Eden events, conferences, webinars, and using the badge factory infrastructure. It was an innovation at a certain point of time. However, recently we have started to look for something else to certify the achievements that people are achieving during their non-formal learning episodes, even as short as a webinar, a training, or a conference. And we, in 2025, we experimented to and did issue 280 micro-credentials to the presenters of Eden Bologna annual conference. Why not participants? Because for us it was important that we keep the idea of assessment. The certificate of participation is just a simple document reflecting that you participated in the event, but the certificate of achievement, that means that somebody submitted a research paper that was double-blind reviewed, and it was edited, it was transformed to a certain level, and then it was presented and published in proceedings. This already gives you a little background for assessment. And therefore, micro-credential that was issued, it was not just another certificate, but it's also a credential of particular achievement. So what steps did we take? Because I know that colleagues are interested. How do you do it? How is it working? So actually, Eden acquired a digital seal as an organization in the country of Eden's legal registration. In our case, it's in Estonia. And this is what every legal organization can perform in their own country, to acquire a digital seal, not e-signature, but seal as an institutional stamp, just digital. And we used European Credential Infrastructure, ECI, that is based on Europass. We prepared a micro-credential template for Eden Bologna annual conference presenters, and we issued micro-credentials. It's actually many thanks to Estela, who was implementing this. So in case you have hands-on questions, she knows how to do it. And this is what our participants received. I'm sharing her certificate. So what we get? We get a traditional PDF that still is popular in many places. Many institutions want to have a PDF for reporting, for accreditations, professional assessments of their professionals, teachers of the universities, but it also has metadata. So this is a visual thing that of a certificate, how it looks, with another page of verifications. It can be stored on your Europass account. Most of us do have Europass accounts for our Europass CV in most cases, but Europass accounts now have much wider functionalities, and you can store your different micro-credentials there in a certain pocket. It can be shared on your social media, LinkedIn, for example, and to third parties if you want to share it with your potential employer, for example. And it can do the old school thing, can be saved and printed as a PDF as well, looking as pretty as you can see. So this is our short testimony of what we are doing, and we intend to continue issuing micro-credentials to the participants of some of our events. We are also looking for other wider possibilities to implement this, but I hope that this experience is also useful to you and your organizations, and you might think of doing something similar or different, but using the same infrastructure. This is my short presentation of Eden's institutional experience in issuing micro-credentials, but I take advantage of this event to invite you to our next annual conference in Porto in June. And actually, a couple of days ago, January 15, we opened paper submission. Use this QR code to access the link, or of course you can always open Eden website and you will get to all the links, but you can use the QR code now and here. So we opened the paper submission and we opened registration. Please mind that the deadline for paper submission is March 20. So it's a kind of 2 months to go to draft your papers and submit them. And then register for the event. I'm sure we are going to have a wonderful experience in Porto. We are now working on the keynotes, trying to deliver very interesting and engaging presentations to you all. And as we have here the audience very often of researchers, I take opportunity to share Eden's publication, EUDRES, a free and open peer-reviewed journal. Again, use the QR code and consider submitting your publication or your paper to be published there. Thank you very much for your attention and your participation. I keep the slide for Porto, but I give back to Vlad to finalize.
Thank you, Elena, so much. We have actually a question for you in the chat. If the design of the certificate that you just presented, if there is a template to follow, or can an organization design it however they want?
I probably
Yeah, Estela is the better person to answer the question. I think in short, yes, but
yes, it is. Institution is free to use their own templates. You can upload them. I mean, they provide you with a general blank template, but if you don't come up with any ideas, but if you have some certain institution templates, you can definitely upload and use them as the background, as we used for Eden conference.
Okay. So there
I
is
was not sharing here in this presentation, but actually there is metadata behind this certificate. You can find information on the place, on the day, on the specific paper, on the session where the paper was presented. So it's really, really much more informative than the plain PDF that is sometimes still used, but it's something that stays with much more information in your Europass pocket.
Thank you for this clarification. I don't see any other questions, but I would like to finalize and conclude this webinar with, let's say, a challenging thought about one of the raising concerns regarding microcredentials, and hoping that all of our speakers will give their ideas. So there is this, let's say, one of the reasons when we started creating microcredentials was to help employers to better identify certain skills they needed. But now there is this concern in certain parts about credential inflation. There are several microcredentials appearing, created by several institutions, which could be very confusing for employers. So from your point of view, what would be the most important, let's say, valuable or quality assurance for microcredentials to help these employers in their job interviews to identify if a certain certificate or credential is really useful? Whoever wants to jump in this short discussion, which would conclude the webinar, feel free. I know that it's not a simple question with a simple and short answer, but maybe some thoughts on this.
Maybe I can start, and I can say that from my point of view, the main issue or the main need from the employer is to see if the person really learned, and if it lacks information about assessment or how the learner was assessed, that he that the credential confirms that he can learn. So probably it's a bit lacking, and he cannot sure, be aware if the learner have learned. I'm not sure if others can contribute.
No, you made it super easy to comment, because I was thinking what would be more important, the information on the assessment or the information on the outcomes. So now you said assessment, so I think maybe the combination of both is the best, because if you have, you have the information what kind of assessment there was, and there's also the standard list, and according to the microcredentials recommendation, which was a supervised assessment or online assessment, that's unsupervised, and so on. But then I think, of course, the structured information on the learning outcomes that are behind this credential, I mean, that is maybe one of the most important, because then you know what was assessed. And of course, here maybe the idea is that that the learning outcomes are also linked to the ESCO classification or to another skill framework that may be relevant for the specific field.
Thank you. Elena, would you like to have a thought on this?
I appreciate the fact that there are exactly attempts that are trying to establish quality standards, like QualityLink, for example. So there is a challenge, but there are attempts trying to mitigate that as well. So it's not so challenging, I think.
Okay, Thank you. So I think that this concludes our webinar. We thank everyone for attending. Be sure to follow Eden webinars. We have another upcoming NAP webinar in February. Then first week of March, we have the Open Education Week when Eden will organize webinars probably every day. Look on our webpage and follow us on social media for information. This will come also in our newsletter. Feel free to follow the work done by QualityLink, which offers opportunities for institutions around Europe. Feel free to follow also best practices from EUDRES, UPT, and Eden, as this was presenting during this session. I kindly thank again our speakers for accepting the invitation to present today, and I wish everyone a very nice and pleasant afternoon. Goodbye.